Hey, what's going on everybody, and welcome back to another Fallout 4 mod bundle. Today we're looking at a long requested topic, and that is going to be Automatron and robot packs. And so we're going to be taking a look at different mods that add in new parts for Automatron or make Automatron a more fun experience. So we have a lot of really cool stuff to offer, including a lot of new parts and attachments, as well as some completely new robots. So stay tuned for a bunch of really cool mods, and let's go ahead and jump in with the first mod. And that mod is going to be the Automatron Expanded Weapons System by sgtbarney. This is going to be a nice little starter mod for expanding your Automatron arsenal, as this adds a ton of new weapons, attachments, and some tweaks and changes to the Automatron options. So there's going to be a ton of new weapons available with this mod, including some really cool things like different plasma type weapons, different variations of the minigun, different ammo types, as well as some new melee weapons, and some more exotic options like a Lorenzo artifact gun or a shoulder mounted Gauss rifle. There's also some new weapon types unlike anything we've seen in vanilla Fallout 4, like some heavy mortar launchers or mortar clusters. We have some 40mm grenade options, microwave emitters, explosive shielding, and some other defensive units as well. On top of all of those new items, there's also a handful of changes to existing items. For example, changing the Fat Man launcher to a fusion core launcher, increasing the accuracy of a lot of different weapons that were already in the game to be a little bit more effective, as well as applying new meshes for some of the existing weapons like the cryo gun, the laser gun, and several others. This is really going to be your best bet when it comes to making an expansion and change to the already existing attachments that were in the vanilla version of the Automatron DLC. But if you're looking for something a little bit more exotic, then, well, I've got a few mods for you. Next up, we have AutomatronWheelLegs by M. This is going to add a ton of new options to the leg section of the Automatron DLC. Now that sounds awfully boring, but trust me, these are some really wacky options, and they will provide some really interesting utility, surprisingly, to a lot of your robots that you create. Typically, you're stuck with some pretty slow leg options, but adding these new wheels makes them pretty handy and fast, and can offer some really unique aesthetics that you won't find in the vanilla version of Automatron. As you can see right off the bat, we have some pretty crazy options. Let's go ahead and take a look at every wheel leg that we have to offer here, starting with the one big wheel, which is a gigantic wheel that surrounds the entire robot and makes this thing move pretty quick. Then we have the one wheel version 1, which is very similar to that of a Securitron from New Vegas. We have the wheel version 2, which is going to be a floating cylinder, kind of like a little BB-8 running around. We have the 2 wheel, which also looks pretty Star Wars inspired, like a Hellfire droid. And then the inverse of those 2 wheels. We have the 2 side-by-side wheels. We have a motorcycle configuration. We have the 3 wheel. We have 3 wheels again, this time with the single wheel being in the rear. We have 4 wheels, and we have 5 wheels. Definitely a good handful of options for different ways to customize the wheels on your Automatrons. Pretty interesting and can make for some really crazy looking robots. Moving on, we have a handful of new parts also from the creative mind of M, and that is M's Automatron Parts Collection by M. This is going to add very similar attachment to those wheels, but in every category. So if you thought those were crazy, trust me, it gets crazier. We now have parts all over the place, different heads and chest pieces, arms, legs, anything you could imagine. There is just a ton of crazy stuff to offer to really let you customize your robots to look however you want. You're no longer limited to just the vanilla options anymore. You can make some wacky stuff. For starters, you see we have a handful of head options like the Android head and the Antenna head. You also get some pretty crazy chassis like the Communist-tron body, the Raider vehicle body, the Slocum Joe-tron body. Legs are yet again where M really shines, as we get options for chicken legs, the chicken leg high maneuverability model, the cigar-shaped floating, I guess, legs, the Mr. Handy, which is just you sitting on a Mr. Handy, so you could make a Mr. Handy on a Mr. Handy. Underneath the Mr. Handy thruster, we have the quad thruster, which honestly looks really cool in my opinion. We've got reptile legs, another reptile legs high maneuverability model. We've got the riding an iBot. As you can see, you have Protectron legs riding that iBot. And, you know, who doesn't want a shopping cart? We've got shopping cart turrets, why not shopping cart robots? You can have it riding a UFO. You can throw it in a wheelchair. The options are truly endless with M's Automatron Parts Collection. Moving on, we have a super cool mod, and that is the Capital Wasteland Robot Pack by HcGxGrill and TheFriedturkey. Now, at its core, this adds a ton of new versions of the vanilla robots into the game that represent their classic versions from Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas. However, they also add a new robot, which is the Securitron from Fallout New Vegas. With this mod, you'll find all of these new robots scattered around the world amongst the vanilla Fallout 4 robots. However, you can also craft them at the robot workbench, making this very compatible with Automatron. So now you can apply all of these really cool retro parts to your robots, as well as build yourself an entirely new Securitron with tons of really cool weapon options, including its shoulder-mounted rocket pods. This thing is super cool and makes Automatron a whole lot of fun. So be careful when you're walking around in the Wasteland, because you may run into a Securitron as opposed to a Sentry Bot, and these things are no joke. They pack a lot more of a punch than they did in New Vegas. These guys are tough. As we move on, we have yet another crazy creation by M, and that is going to be the AutomatronSDTank by M. As you can see, this adds a totally new type of robot for you to build, which is a tank. Yeah, this is just a tank. Except it's controlled by a robot, so you don't have to do any of the work. This thing will follow you around and shoot some really cool rounds at you. Now, as for most of the parts, they are pretty standard. The head is just a placeholder, and the legs are going to be these sweet tank treads. However, you can customize them to throw on some of the other stuff that we've seen, which can make for some really cool different robots. But where this mod really shines is the different torso options. So as you can see, we have the SDTank Modi base. But underneath, we have the different types of cannons that we can apply. So here is your standard cannon. But then we also have the tank carrier, which looks kind of like a modern tank with a bunch of packs. We have the Fat Man launcher. We have the flamer, the Gatling gun, the laser, and the missile launcher. Now, if you're using something like the companion framework that allows you to carry more than one companion with you, this mod could pair very nicely with our next mod, which is Mech Out 4 23rd Century Combat by Bronx. Now, this mod is going to add a handful of the mechs from the Battletech and Mech Warrior series as robots for Fallout 4. Now, mechs are technically piloted by people, but these guys are shrunk down to robot size and controlled by AI. You can throw a lot of their parts on, you can mix and match them just like you could with any other Automatron robots, and you can make some really cool combinations, or you can just stick to the lore-friendly Battletech style mechs. You can also paint all of these things. They do have paint options, which is super cool. It's always nice to have that customizability. You can include a ton of the weapons and weapon slots from Battletech and Mech Warrior. And like I said earlier, if you're using a companion framework, you can carry some of those tanks with you as sort of SRM and LRM carriers, which would be a pretty fun little pairing. If you're a fan of Mech Warrior or Battletech, this mod is a must-try. It's really cool to see some of these mechs in-game in Fallout 4, as their universes are surprisingly similar, at least in their origin. These definitely allow you to see some robots that you are not used to seeing in vanilla Fallout 4. These are very foreign compared to the Automatron parts that we're used to, but they're super cool nonetheless. Having a totally unique robot rolling around as your companion will definitely strike fear into the hearts of raiders. And with that, we bring this video to a close. I hope you guys enjoyed. This was a super fun one to make. All of these Automatron parts are always so wacky and cool and so creative. I really had a good time with this one. So if you have any suggestions for future Mod Bundle episodes, I do have a pretty extensive list already for future episodes, but if you want to throw a couple ideas out anyways, you can do so in the comments below, and who knows, it may appear as a future episode at some point for Mod Bundle. With that though, I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, if you want to try any of the mods, they will be linked down in the description below, along with Xbox links if they are available. And if you enjoy any of these mods, go out there and endorse the mod. Show the mod author all of your appreciation for all of their hard work. And if you enjoyed this video, drop a rating. Subscribe if you haven't already for more videos just like this, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace! And really quick, I'd like to make a shout out to all of our patrons. Your donations are greatly appreciated and really help to support the channel and videos just like this one. So again, thank you.